At the end of the second half of the 16th century, increasingly larger battle swords emerged compared to the previous decades. In particular, the southern German production sites in Passau, Nuremberg and Munich should be mentioned here. These battle swords differed noticeably from the early battle swords of the 15th and the beginning of the 16th century, and also from their Iberian counterparts. Overall, they were longer, heavier, and in particular the ratio of the handle to blade length differs, usually in a ratio of around 1 to 2. The curved opulent quillions of these swords replaced the S or 8-hilt, and recassos up to the horns were often covered with leather. In addition to this special crossguard design and the increased size, the blades were also often flamed in a wave shape. These weapons were mostly found on the battlefield, where large army units met with long pikes. Together with other short weapons such as the halberd or the marder axe, the battlesword was used against enemy lines as soon as the pikemen could no longer work efficiently in a tight crowd. In particular, the parrying horns of the battlesword should be emphasized here, which offered additional protection against pikes. In this video we focus on the basic movement patterns for wielding such a weapon and less on the battle context. I would also like to point out again the lack of proper sources for fencing with the battlesword. But if you want to know what my conjectures are based on, I would like to recommend my article to you, which can be found in the video description. Okay, and how can we grab those big swords? It's easy. We primarily use as a grip that is similar to the one on the longsword. The leading hand is placed under the parry and the other just above the pommel. But however, we can also put our hand just behind the parrying horns, either with both thumbs pointed forward or towards each other. Such a grip gives us more control over the blade and a strong lever. And we have two options for transporting the battlesword. Either carried on the shoulder or just between the hilt and horns at the center of mass. The plough is an essential guard and not unlike the middle guard from the halberd. Especially when we look at this guard at the variant with a broad grip, the difference to the middle guard is eminent. Nevertheless, I call this guard after its purpose, field guard, as it is best suited for parrying and small control techniques. The upper guard is a useful posture for strong upper strikes, especially in the tight crowd of a battle. The side guard is a bit special. With such a large weapon we would like to avoid a crossed handling as much as possible. Therefore the point is oriented once to the front and once to the rear. The thrust from plough into long point is very simple. You should just avoid taking a passing step. One fencing step is sufficient. There's something special about thrusting into the axe, because our weapon is heavy and so we swing out of the side guard to get into the stretch axe powerfully. These two thrusts can of course also be done from the field guard. When thrusting into axe it is even a bit more comfortable to have your thumbs point towards each other. All of these thrusts can be easily combined with each other. We always stay with the same leg up front, so we ensure a stable and precise execution. Driving through the plough. As you can see, the sword is being moved up and down from top right to the bottom left, whereby the cutting edge alternates. The arms remain uncrossed and there's no passing step. From the field guard, this type of striking is smaller but faster and more stable. This type of striking, combined with an occasional thrust, would be my personal preference in close battle lines. Simple and effective. Driving through the hanging. The driving through the hanging is much more energy consuming. However, from field guard we can work with our thumbs facing one another to save energy. In addition, this way of striking gives us completely new possibilities to protect our upper openings. Driving through the cross from above. Here we connect two upper strikes from the left and the right and run through the upper guard and one of the side guards. This creates a so-called driving or treiben, a constant movement through the cross. This type of striking is also much easier when the weapon is gripped in the field guard. Driving through the cross from below. Here we connect two lower strikes from the left and from the right. As before, the hooves alternates here. Sometimes it is aufgestrichen from below with the back edge. Sometimes it is struck as usual with the long edge from below. The wrist strike is a really strong strike. Because we initiate this diagonal hook with a middle hook, the following wrist strike becomes all the more powerful. Of course you need some space for this. Or you make some space. As you can see, I alternately cut first with the short and then with the long edge. Here we strike from the side guards, first with a short and then with a long edge hook, so we hit twice through the same line from below. This weapon impresses with its rather simple movement mechanics, similar to those of pole arms like the halberd. The battlesword of the late 16th century was primarily a heavy infantry weapon to protect the foremost rows of pikes and the connection with the other so-called short weapons. It provided the space required by the long pikes by pushing back enemy lines. Battleswords, together with the other short weapons, also tried to bind and destroy the long pikes of the enemies. In the tight crowd, they were useful weapons to defend the allies, and it cannot be ruled out that they put pressure on the enemy lines to destabilize formations. Thus, this weapon was only an effective tool in battle in combination with other weapons. On its own, however, this weapon still had a great symbolic character and was therefore often handed over to the bodyguards of high dignitaries or used as an officer's weapon. If you want to learn more about this topic or the background to my research, I again recommend my detailed article on this topic. You can find a link in the video description. And please keep in mind, this video only shows basic movement patterns. In another one I will go into how the Battlesword works within the battle lines against enemy pikemen and examine the pike cutting topic in more detail. And I'm really looking forward to the results myself.